8, would you believe it? Let's start off with our opening song. You got there. Stick down. I wonder, have you heard that this is God's own word? It's full of special things that he would like to say. And what is really cool, the stories are all true. So shall we take a look together right away? Let's open the book, let's take a little look. You never know just what you're going to find. Let's open the book, let's take a little look. Ready, steady, don't get left behind. Brilliant. Well, our story today still involves food. Yes, food. And also, we're thinking about using one of these. Or one of these. It's a long time since I've used one. It really is. But we'll find out a bit about that later. A bit of yeast. And Judith is going to read it for us. And she's actually going to make some bread at the same time. So enjoy. It's going to be a tasty episode.
This story is called A Little Bit of Yeast. This is what the kingdom of heaven is like, said Jesus. It's like leaven, you know, that bit of dough with yeast in it that you use to make bread rise. Then he told a parable that went something like this. Once there was a woman who wanted to make some bread. Not a slice, not a loaf, but enough to feed her family and several families more. So she put some flour on the table. I've got some flour in here. Not a cup of flour, not a bag of flour, a lot more than this, a great big enormous pile of flour, a sackful in fact. Then she mixed in enough water to make it moist. We'll do that in a minute. Finally, she added the leaven. You know that bit of dough with yeast in it that you use to make bread rise? Well, I haven't got any of that, so I've got some dried packet yeast. It wasn't a lot of leaven. It wasn't even a chunk of leaven. It was just a tiny little piece. She mixed it into the flour. She covered it with a cloth. Then she left it overnight. Well, I'm not going to leave mine overnight. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I've got this flour in here. And here again goes the yeast. It's not very much, is it? But it's going to work all the way through that flour. And then I need a teaspoon of salt. And I need, this recipe says, a tablespoon of honey. Runny honey. And let me look at my recipe. 2 tablespoons of oil. 1, 2. And then some water. It mustn't be too hot or too cold. I can put my hand in it. That's just right. I'm going to mix all that together. So now I'm going to knead the flour, knead the bread. So I'm going to put the timer on. 10 minutes. Don't worry, you won't have to watch me for 10 minutes. And this is what I do. And this is what the woman did in Jesus' story. She mixed in all the yeast, all the leaven into the flour. Because this little piece is going to make one whole loaf. As the leaven worked its way into the dough rose. It rose a little, it rose a little more, and it rose higher still. Then it rose and kept on rising until it rose much, much higher than the pile of flour she had started with. And then that's when she baked her bread, enough to feed her family and several families more. So I've been kneading this for nearly 10 minutes. I've got my tin ready. Got a little bit of oil in it to stop it sticking. So when the beeper goes off, I'm going to put it in the tin. This is quite hard work doing this. It's worth it though. There's the beeper. I'm going to switch it off. And I'm going to make this into a kind of loaf shape. I'm going to pop it in the tin like that. Cover it with a cloth. And then I'm going to put it in a warm place for 2 hours. So I'll put the timer on again for 2 hours. And now it's time for PE with Joe. I'll see you later. So 2 hours have gone by. Let's have a look and see what's happened. Ooh, wow. See how that's risen? See how much bigger that is? And it's the yeast in it that's helped it to grow. So let's just read the last part of the story. It's saying, what's the kingdom of heaven like? It's like a little bit of leaven, or yeast, that touches all it's mixed with and changes it and makes it grow. So God's love in us changes the whole world and everything where we live and the people we meet and people we mix with. It has such a big effect. So now I'm going to put this in the oven. I'm going to take it out in half an hour, and then because of the lockdown I can't see my family, I can't see my friends and share it with them like the lady in the story did, so it'd just be my husband and I eating it. So see you later, see you at lunchtime. Bye. So let's see if it's done yet. Ooh, yes it is. Here it is. There's my loaf of bread. Ooh, this looks good, doesn't it? You think that little piece of dough. Let's get it out the tin. Is. Yeah, that's cooked. We'll let it cool down and then we'll start to eat it. Time to cut it. Oh, somebody's had some already. I wonder who that could be. The person filming this, I think it was my husband. There we are, one loaf of bread. Bye.
A friend of God, because it reminds us that whoever we are, all of us in the world, God calls us his friends. Whether we know it or not, the truth is he calls us his friends. Every grain of sand on the beach, every person in the world. What an amazing thought. Have a go at this song with us. Who am I that you are mindful of me? That you hear me when I call? Is it true that you are thinking that you are thinking of me, how you love me. It's amazing. What is it? It's amazing. What did you say? It's amazing. Let's sing it together. Oh, I'm a friend of God. Oh, oh, I'm a friend of God. Oh, oh, I'm a friend of God. He calls me friend. I'm a friend of God. Oh, oh, I'm a friend of God. Oh, oh, I'm a friend of God. He calls me friend. Let's sing, I'm a friend. Oh, I'm a friend of God. Oh, I'm a friend of God. I'm a friend of God. He calls me friend. 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 Let's sing it. One last time, sing. I'm a friend of God. Whoa, oh, I'm a friend of God. Whoa, oh, I'm a friend of God. He calls me friend. Well, boys and girls, what an amazing story about bread. This bread, though, is a bit different. It doesn't look as nice as Judith's bread. No, not at all. Oh, didn't you want to just ask Judith to cut your own slice and just pass it on? Perhaps toast it or put butter and jam on. Oh, anyway, back to the story. Back to open the book this morning. Well, this bread's different to Judith's bread. Can any of you see what's different about it? What's happened? Or what's not happened? Yeah, it's flat. It's got no yeast or no leaven in it when it was made. It's a pita bread. Yeah, they're nice. But not as nice as Judith's beautiful loaf of bread. That was pretty special. And that's the yeast makes the difference. The yeast is the stuff that makes it rise. And in the story, it was reminding us, the story reminds us, a little bit of yeast only takes a little bit to make such a difference, like in Judith's loaf. She sprinkles some in, mix it in, and then it started to rise with the warm water. And then it just creates the beautiful bread. Well, the beautiful bread needs the yeast to help it to rise. And the life we live, the lives that we live, we need God's love so we can rise up and be all we're meant to be. God's love is like the yeast. We need God's love. Can you imagine a world without love? Oh, I don't want to think about it. Well, we need the yeast. We need God's love to make a difference. Well, sandcastles. We all love going to the beach. And God's love is for everybody. God's love isn't just for a special few. And in the Bible it mentions that people are like grains of sand. There's so many of them in the world. But it reminds us, the Bible reminds us that all the people in the world, like all the grains of sand on the beach, God loves all of them the same. None of them more special, none of them more important than the other, all of them important. I don't know about you, but I love going to the beach to make sandcastles. Sometimes I like to see what happens when the sea catches up. Maybe just whether my sandcastle or my sand village can survive. Well, let's have a go. I'm turning it over and see if it works. 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Not sure if that helps, but everyone does it. Bit of shimmy. And yeah, not bad, not bad. Now, if I had a flag, I could put a flag on top. I've got a flag. Brilliant. Well, boys and girls, hope you remember today. Parents, hope you remember today that you are loved by God. He loves you. He loves every one of you, like every grain of sand. And God's love is like yeast. Yeast in the bread that turns it from being a flat bread to a beautiful loaf. And that's what God's love does to us. When God's love is there, when we share, when we hear, when we pass on God's love to one another, our lives are better, like the loaves are better. Oh, that bread. Oh. I'm going to go and get some bread now. Have a tea. See you later.